Yeah, very good morning, children. How are you doing? Yeah, today we're going to deal with a new lesson that is a different ecosystems. What is that? Different ecosystems, and this is session one. Now, let's come into our topic. So, already in sixth class, we learned about something about this topic that is a habitat. Here, what is a habitat? The dwelling place for plants and animals. Dwelling here, what is meant by dwelling means living place. When now we take any park or a park, so there in a park we can find different plants and some animals are living. So that living place of plants and animals is called habitat. Correct? Okay. And when you take any habitat, in that habitat we can find different varieties of plants and animals, and these plants and animals are sharing that habitat. Sharing means what? That means whatever the air that is present, water, then the soil. Okay, so the food, all these things are shared by these plants and animals in that habitat. And in that habitat we can find different living and non-living things. Okay, if we carefully observe any habitat, we can find two types of things: living things and non-living things. Living things means here we can say plants, animals, of course, including with there's microorganisms, and the non-living things like air, water, then the soil, gases. Okay, like temperature, sunlight, all these things are said to be non-living things. Right? Okay, now let's deal with the word that is ecosystem. What is this ecosystem means? For the first time, the word ecosystem was coined by a scientist, that is A.G. Tansley. A.G. Tansley. Have you seen this? Yeah, he is Mr. Tansley, and he coined the word ecosystem, and he called that as a basic unit of nature. Basic unit of nature, right? And this ecosystem is the full form for ecological system. Ecological system, in a short term, this ecological system can be called as a ecosystem. Ecosystem, right? Okay, and here in this, yeah, so before this A.G. Tansley, there were many ecologists. Ecologists means, actually, what is ecology? Ecology means this is a branch of science which studies about the relations between the living things and the non-living things. Okay, whatever the relation we can find between the living things and the non-living things in a particular place or a habitat, that relation can be studied with the help of a special branch that is called ecology, and that person can be called as an ecologist. Right? So before this A.G. Tansley also, there were many ecologists, but they used the terms like habitat and biome. Habitat and biome. But what was the problem with this habitat and biome means? This habitat was used to study a small level of a place like a habitat. Okay, so when there is a small place, say for example a small park, right? So that is a very small area, and that can be considered as a habitat. But large level means when you take this whole planet Earth, so this is considered as a biome, right? But can you think that, can you study all this Earth at a time? Is it easy thing to study at a time? No. So it's a very complicated. Okay, that's why for our convenience, this biome is divided into separate small branches, and these branches can be called as ecosystems. Ecosystems. Good. Okay. So who is that scientist? Yeah, A.G. Tansley. Right. Okay. Then the structure of an ecosystem. Structure here in this activity, actually this is an activity, and in this activity we are going to study what is the structure of that ecosystem. Structure means what kind of living things and non-living things are present when we take a particular place. So here, in the activity we can find what's the first one, that's the aim. What's the aim here means, see, study an ecosystem at a school and a home garden to understand its structure. We can select any place, either in our school or in our home or at our field, okay, at a park, roadside, whatever the place we want, we can do this. Okay, there are no restrictions. We can select any place, right? And materials. So for this activity, we need the materials like measuring tape. This can be found at a tailor shop, tailor measuring tape, and then a string. String means a small thread, or we can say rope. Then some sticks, small sticks, or any rods, and the next hand lens to observe some tiny articles, right? And even hand towel for what? That means for the cleaning of our hands after the completion of this activity, right? And what's the procedure we need to do means, for this we can select, already I told you, you can select any type of area, like say this a grassland or a big dirty area, or say this a sidewalk. Sidewalk means whatever the place you get on a roadside, there is to be, right? So here what you have to do means, with the help of a tape, you have to measure a square area. Square, well about square in mathematics. All the four sides are equal in a square. So here we need to take a meter. So like this, okay. So all the four sides should be having a what length? There is 1 meter. Now what do you call this? This is called a square meter. Square meter. In this way, with the help of this measuring tape, we have to measure, and then here at the corners like this, we can insert sticks. We can insert sticks or some rods. Okay. Now that means all these 4 rods are tied with a string now. That is whatever this thread we are using. So with the help of that thread, we can add all this 4 like this border, like a border. If a string is not available, even you may use this say this powder, any powder, right? So with the help of powder or a chalk, you can draw the line around the border like this. So what is the use of this border means, this is a place we are going to study. So in this way, first we have to select the place in which shape, in a square, right? Now in this place we need to find out what are the different types of plants present, and any animals like this, okay. And all these plants and animals should be noted down in the notebook, okay. And if possible, it is better to note down their number also. Okay, what is the name of that plant, okay, and what is its number, okay, and what varieties of plants are present, like this, okay. And even after the completion of this, even if you want, you can dig that place a little bit. Dig with the help of any sharp object. You can dig and you can observe even the inner side of the soil. Why means, even in the side, under the soil also we can find some creatures. Can you guess what creatures? Yeah, very good. That is like an earthworm, some insects, and then the eggs of lizards, the eggs of some insects, and then roots of the plants. Okay, so in this way we can find even under the soil also we can find this living creatures. Okay, that's why to observe them we can dig that place. Correct. So in this way you have to complete this activity, and after this, so under this observation you need to fill all the things. That means what living things you found here, and then what is their number, okay, and then what you found below the soil, that means under the soil, like this. So in this way we need to complete this activity, and after the activity, so this activity like this, we need to give the activity to different groups. We can divide the children into groups, okay, and for one group we can give a grassland, and to one this field, and then to the other one there is a playground, park, like this. Correct? And after the completion of all these things, we need to go for a discussion. Right? Here, what is that? What things did you find in your study area, and try to count if possible. Right? We need to, already I told you, so we need to find out what type of living things are present and their number, like this, and which kind of living things are most common. That means among all, so which are the commonly present. Then how was your study area different from others? What differences you can find between your area and your friend area, like this. Okay, and then other than the living organisms, what other things can you record? So what are the other things, like already I told you, like earthworms, and the next roots, and then some eggs, then some insect larvae, like this, right? So given whatever the things you can find, you can add, right? And so by completing all this activity, we can conclude something. What is that means? Ecosystem is made up of groups of living things and their environments, right? That means in each ecosystem we can find different groups of living things, like plants, then animals, and then microorganisms, and also their environment. Environment means surroundings, we can say. Some are living on land, and some are living under the land, and some are inside the water. Okay, some are in air, like this. Okay, and then the living things, whatever the living things we can find, like plants, then animals, and microorganisms. All these living things are called as biotic components. Are called biotic components. Bio means what? Life. So the organisms in which life is present, they can be called as a biotic components, or in other words we can say living components. Living components, yeah. And then the other things, the non-living things, like say there's the soil, then water, sunlight, temperature, all these things where you cannot find any life, they are called as what? They are called as abiotic components. Abiotic. A means absent. Bio means life. The components in which life is absent, they are called abiotic, or we can say non-living components. Non-living components. Here these are living components, and these are the non-living components, right? So all these organisms, both living and non-living things, they live together and interact with one another. Interact means they influence each other. Got it? So these are the things we can observe by studying all these ecosystems. Is that clear? Right. Now, interdependence between the biotic components. So here, if you carefully observe this picture, yeah, here, what is this? Here at the base you can find, say there's a carrot, then grass, and then nuts, then a squirrel, rabbit, deer, snake, fox, then a dog, tiger, right? Sorry, not tiger, it's a fox. Yeah, tiger, yeah. Then owl, then bear, like this. So here, let's see the questions. What do the arrows in the figure indicate? So here, if you carefully observe, we can find the arrows. Can you see? Here, from here to here, here to here, here to here, like this. Here, what is the meaning for these arrows? Means, if you carefully observe this one, say, what is this? Plants, grass, then a rabbit, then now say fox. Okay, now come here. What is that? First one, that is a grass, then a rabbit. Then what's the next one? Next one, that is a say fox. See, fox. So here, when you take these three are connected with the arrows. So here, what are these arrows represent? Means these arrows represent two things. That is a food and a feeder. Got it? So here, this is an arrow, right? This is arrow. This is called base, and this is a tip. Got it? So the base of the arrow indicates food. You got it? The base. What can you find at the base of this arrow? First arrow, that is a grass. So grass is a food. Okay, and then tip. At the tip we can find what? We can find a rabbit. So rabbit is a feeder. Feeder means which eats, eats. So grass is food, rabbit is a feeder, right? So, but when we take these two, for example, take these two. Here, rabbit and fox are also connected by this arrow. And which animal can you find at the base? The rabbit. So rabbit is food and fox is a feeder. But when you take the first one, rabbit is a feeder. But in second one, we can say rabbit is a food. Correct. So this is the use of these arrows. Then I trace the path from a grass to tiger. Grass to tiger. See? From grass to tiger. So here, grass, then rabbit, rabbit to fox, and fox to tiger. So this is the path. Then what's the next one? On how many organisms rabbit dependent? Write their names. So when you take this rabbit depends on how many things? See, this is a rabbit. Rabbit depends on two things. One is say this carrot, and the other one, the next one, grass. Correct. So rabbit depends on this carrot and grass. Okay. Then what's the next one? So how many organisms depend on a rabbit, and write their names. So this is rabbit, and this rabbit is taken by, say this a fox. Yeah, first one, this is fox, and the next snake, then say this owl, third one, and even this tiger. So four animals are taking this rabbit as a food. Got it? Okay. Then there is a feeding relationships between plants and animals. We can find just now I told you in this example, right? So this is a feeding relation. Relation means here grass is related to rabbit, and the rabbit is related to this fox. So this is what kind of relation? Why this relation is formed? Just because of it's not any blood relation. It is a food relation. Just because of their food habits, these three are connected, related. Got it? And the interdependence between the plants and animals for the space, reproduction, shelter as well. Okay, for example, when you take villages, we can find a very large banyan trees. Okay, and over that we can find different varieties of birds, then animals, snakes, all these things. So all these animals are depending on that plant for what? For a space and even a shelter. So in this way, we can find the interdependence for what? For the space, then even for the reproduction, shelter, like this. Correct. So naturally, this biotic components show interdependence, but even biotic and abiotic components are also interdependent. That means biotic components are depending on abiotic components, and abiotic components are dependent on biotic components. So in this way, both are mutually dependent on each other. Clear? Right. Now, this is the picture. Then, all the organisms in an ecosystem derive energy from food to live. Okay, say whenever we take, we observe ourselves. So daily we are eating the food. How many times? Yeah, 3 to 4 times. Why we are taking the food? Why? That means to get energy. That means we get energy from the food. When we take the food, then we get energy, and with help of that energy, our organs which are present in our body, they work, and so we can survive. When there is no food, then we die automatically, right? So our energy, we are getting energy from food. But how we are getting the food? What is the source of food? Means, the sun. The sun is the main source of energy for all the living things. All the living things are getting their energy from the sun. We can find that some people, even today, some people believe that the sun is, they consider the sun as a god. They worship the god. Why? Means this is our energy source. Got it? Okay, and even in the morning we can find that some people are doing this Surya Namaskaram, right? So what is that means? That means for at least some time we are spending in sunlight, so that we get sunlight and our body becomes active, right? We get D vitamin, all these things, right? So when we take these plants, the plants are able to use this sunlight directly. That means how means with the help of photosynthesis. Photosynthesis. In the lower classes, we learn that plants prepare the food by using what? By using carbon dioxide from air, then water from soil, then say this chlorophyll, and in the presence of sunlight, they prepare the food. So who are the best users of sunlight? Means there is a plants, right? And then what means these plants are, but can you say that where we get energy directly from sunlight? By standing in the sun, will you get energy? No, you will faint after some time. Why? Means we don't have that capacity. Okay, that's why what the animals do. Animals depend on plants. Animals depend on plants. Okay, and even some animals, they also depend on other animals. Here, if you carefully observe this picture, okay, or I will explain here. Say this grass, then a rabbit and a tiger, right? So grasses are able to prepare their own food materials by photosynthesis, right? And animals, these two animals, rabbit and tiger, they cannot. Okay, that's why how the rabbit is getting its food, its energy. That means by eating grass. Okay, but what about tiger? The tiger is getting its energy by eating this rabbit. Correct. So this is the way how animals get energy. Right? So rabbit is directly depending on grass, but tiger indirectly on grass. Correct. So what do you call this one? Means this whole process can be called as a food chain. This is called a chain. These three appears like a chain, like these are the beads. First bead, second bead, third bead, and connected by just like a thread. Okay, that's why we call this as a food chain. And when you observe this food chain, in this food chain we can find three main levels. What do they means? The first one, producers. Here several plants and algae, green plants and algae, they are able to prepare their food materials. Okay, that's why we call them as producers. So all the green plants and algae are considered as producers. Producers means food producers, not film producers. Correct? Okay. And then consumers. Consumers means what? Users. So here plants are preparing the food, but what the animals are doing, this rabbit and tiger, they are using the food. So we call these two as consumers. But in higher classes, you may get the same thing in a little bit deeper. Actually, this rabbit is called a primary consumer, and the tiger as a secondary consumer, like this. But now, generally, we call these two as consumers, right? Okay. Then what's the third level? Means decomposers. Decomposers means, what they do means they convert the waste materials and also the dead bodies of plants and animals into what? The manure. So for example, if you observe any dead animal on a roadside, okay, think that daily you are coming to the school and you are washing that dead body, right? So if you observe that dead body over for about 1 month, can you find the dead body as it is, or find some changes? Yes, slowly the body is disappearing. What is meant by disappearing? That means it gets eaten up by these microbes. Okay, so in this way they are decomposing these bodies. So what is the use of that? Means, so because of this decomposition, whatever the nutrients present in the living organisms. So for example, here this is soil. Think that this is soil. In the soil we can find the nutrients. These nutrients are taken by these nutrients. Yeah, these nutrients are taken by plant. Okay, so from soil the nutrients go to this grass, and this grass is eaten by rabbit. So from grass nutrients come to rabbit, and when this rabbit is taken by tiger, the nutrients come to this tiger. And when tiger dies, then what happens? It gets decomposed, and so the nutrients will come back to soil, and again from soil it goes. So in this way we can find a cycle. And this cycle is maintained by this decomposers. Okay, that's why we call them as the recyclers. So what is the other name to this decomposers? Yeah, there is a recyclers. Got it? Okay, right. Now let's go to next topic. So clearly observe this picture here. If you carefully observe this, we can find several food chains. Say this is one food chain. So grass, and then some microbes, and then a fish, then a crane, and then a lion. And then here, this is also one thing. Say there's a plants, the next insects too, there's a frog, and a frog by crane. Like this, here in this picture we can find many food chains, right? And when all these food chains join with each other, then we get another structure that is called a food web. Right? Okay. So here we have some questions based on this. Let's see this. Which are the predators in the food web? What are the predators? Predators means we can say all these things, whatever the things we can find at the base, like grasses and the plants, all these things, that's to be predators. And what's the second one? Which are the consumers? Consumers means all these things. Okay, all these things can be considered as a what? As a consumers. Why? Means they are using the food from the plants, right? And what's the next one? Where does the food web starts from? So there's a food web starts from the base. That means either grasses or we can say plants. Then where the food web ends, where it is ending with the lion, right? The next, what happens when the plants and animals die in a food web? So when all these things, when all these plants and animals completely die, then what happens? Then that ecosystem will disappear. That's it. Okay, right. Then changes in the ecosystem. Generally, see, organisms affect their environment to meet their needs. So for example, there is an elephant and it's very, very hungry. Then what do you do? That means it goes to this plants, and then it eats up whatever the plant materials that are present in that area. But it don't think that I'm damaging the environment. So why? Means, so that means there is no wrong with that. Why? Means it is doing that to survive. Okay, it's a need. Okay, so in this way, just to satisfy the needs, the living things, they change their environment, they affect the environment, and these changes are very small, and again this whole ecosystem will become stable after some time. Here the elephant is eating the plant, right? And again after few days, what happens? The plant will grown up again, right? Okay, so in this way, then for example, take here insects and the birds habitat. Think that in one habitat these two are present. So bird eats insects. So when birds are eating more and more insects, then what happens? When birds are eating more and more insects, then automatically what happens? Automatically insect number decreases. decreases, and so birds cannot get energy, birds cannot get their food. Okay, that's why. So some birds may die, and some birds may leave that area, they weaken that. Okay, like that. So here insects are controlling birds. In the same way, birds are also controlling insects. So when birds, when birds are less, how the birds are controlling insects? By eating. Correct. In this way, both these birds and the insects are mutually controlling each other, and so that they keep that environment, or they keep that ecosystem in a balance. Correct. Okay. Ecosystem can also change very quickly by powerful storms. Just recently in Hyderabad and in the coastal areas, we can find a very severe floods, right? So what happens when such natural calamities occur, like storms and the next tsunamis and earthquakes? When such disasters take place, then what happens? Then that whole ecosystem will be damaged completely, and even many living organisms, including with the humans, will die. Have you seen some storms? See, this is the storm, and says tsunami, no, and earthquakes. So, and even volcanoes eruption. Like this, because of all these things, what happens means they bring the changes very quickly, and so that that ecosystem may completely damage. And even humans are also instrumental in bringing about changes. Now, human is totally different when compared with the other animals. All the animals are depending on nature just to satisfy its needs, their needs. But what about the man? Man also depending, but because of a greedy nature, what he is doing? He's overusing the nature. What? Get the pains. He's cutting down the complete forest area for increasing the food from agriculture, then for constructing houses, for constructing industries. Okay, and then he's filling all the plants with the soil, and then raising that for a construction purpose. Okay, so in this way, he is bringing several changes in the environment, and that's why we are getting very bad consequences, like rise in temperature, and then different types of diseases. Okay, all these problems. Okay, that's why being as a responsible citizen, we should not do all these things, and we must. It is our responsibility to surrender our environment to the next generation without bringing any changes, right? Okay, that's all for today, and have a good day. Thank you.